All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 182 News Podcast. This is your host, Poppin' Curbs, and I really appreciate you making me a part of your day. Today's episode is going to conclude the Davey Jones saga. This is part 3 of this 3-part series with special guest Davey Jones. If you don't know who Davey is, true old school fan, huge asset to the Blink-182 really fan community, definitely to Blink-182 Online. He has shared some incredible stories, incredible insight about what it was like being a fan back in the day. He was friendly with the band, on the guest list. He was asked by Mark to be in the Josie music video. So this has been such a pleasure on my part to really get Davey's full history and full story. So in part 1, we basically went through him getting introduced to Blink all the way up through Dude Ranch, essentially. In part 2, we started with him being in the Josie music video and got all the way through really about plus 44-ish. And then in part 3 today, we are going to kick off with the reunion and really lead all the way up until modern times. So Davey tells a great story in here. This is why he was even on this podcast. This is why he even got back into Blink. And it all started with seeing Blink again in 2015 with Matt Skiba at Muse Inc. Without that show, we do not know Davey Jones. We do not get these stories, this history. So it's just super cool. I really hope you've enjoyed this. I know it's long. We're going on 6 or 7 hours of this, but it's just so cool in my opinion. And I thought it was well worth it, just because he has such a unique perspective and just some incredible stories. So if you do not follow us at Blink-182 Online, definitely check those out on Twitter and Instagram. That's where we will be sharing these photos we reference throughout. These are rare, never before seen photos of Davey's that he took back in the day on a disposable camera. Just incredible stuff. So thankful for him taking time to get those scanned in so that we can see them. In the meantime, if you want to follow me, I'm at Poppin' Curbs on Twitter and Instagram. I would love to hear from you. And I'm not going to waste your time on this. We're going to jump straight into part 3 of the Davey Jones conversation. Here we go. Okay, so nobody saw this coming. Maybe some people did. So we don't get the second Plus 44 album. Tom's still doing his thing with Angels and Airwaves. Tragically, Travis is in a plane crash, kills some of his best friends. Horrible.
Now, Rye, were you following along with Ava, like as they were doing new releases through that time?
I was more Plus 44 Live for Life at that time. I wasn't, I was very into We Don't Need to Whisper. I was very aware and listened to several tracks on Empire. Secret Crowds, honestly, might be my favorite Angels and Airwaves song of all time.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, I love that song. But I was still looking forward to more Plus 44 as opposed to Angels and Airwaves. So, I had high hopes for that. So the accident happens, tragically. And then what ends up happening is that sort of brings Blink back together. And all of a sudden we get the announcement of the reunion. I can still picture it on the little video award show. Travis is in his cast still at the time. Word has it that they're going to start making music together again. So how did you feel about this reunion when you first heard about it? Do you remember where you were? Were you shocked by it? Did you ever think it would happen?
Well, I think when I heard about it, I went, "Oh, this is obvious because of the plane crash, right?" So, my buddies know I'm like the Blink guy, right? So I think it was like one of my friends texted me. I was in graduate school at the time. One of my friends texted me and was like, "Dude, like Travis is like within inches of his life in a hospital." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And then just like laid it out. Like I got on the phone with my buddy and he's like, "Dude, you got to go online right now and check this out." So I get to a web browser and I'm, checking out the news, maybe it was Variety or, Spin or one of those. And they're like, "Yeah, like I think the word out is like, he's an intensive burn care unit. He might die." The media always like, they give you the most drama, right? So they're like, "He's within inches of his life." And I'm like, holy shit, wow. And then I'm like, in the back of my mind, I was like, maybe this is going to start some conversations. Because
Yeah.
when old friends, someone has a close call, that's usually a time when you reach out. And so I don't know how much later it was. I want to say the plane crash was like in August or a fall kind of time. And then
Yep.
the announcement to reunite was like in January, February. I don't remember the timing.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact months, but it went pretty quick. I mean, like I said, Travis was still in a cast and recovering.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Someone picked up the phone and clearly mended some fences. You know, some bridges that were burned there got repaired as a result of this tragedy. So I kind of thought like, wow, you know, good can come out of bad things, right? So you know, the fact that this happened made them realize like, hey, we have this magic thing here. We might try and do some more stuff.
Yeah. So Neighborhoods ends up taking forever to come out, a couple years. They do the reunion tour. They're back on stage 2009.
Did they work on that for an extended amount of time? I know Entitled they worked on for a long time.
They worked on it for a while, and when I had Chris Holmes on, I asked him about it, and he said that it didn't feel like it was taking as long as it actually did. He thinks they definitely blew through potentially a couple deadlines. He also said that, a lot of people have this notion that it was like super, they were on very different levels and on completely different pages, and there was tons of arguments and crap like that. And he said it really wasn't like that. Yeah, they recorded in different studios, which in today's world is not uncommon at all.
Yeah,
In fact, Mark just posted a picture today where he's working with John Feldman virtually on a new song. So that's really not that big of a deal. But they do the reunion tour 2009. They're supposedly working on new music. Neighborhoods finally comes out in 2011. And actually, just to back up a tad, I remember their first appearance on, I think it was Jay Leno. And it was the first time, of them playing together that I'd seen in a long time. And I
mm-hmm.
vividly remember Tom, he was using his Angels and Airwaves voice in Blink. And I still, to this day, like when I see and hear clips, they were doing all the small things. And instead of all the small things, it was all the small things.
Does he have an Ava voice? I always just think of him as Tom.
It's kind of just the dramatic. I mean, I don't know. He just changed. I mean, it had been a long time. It had
Yeah,
been, 4 or 5 years since he's
yeah.
played that way, and he's
Well, and
taken.
if you have a higher voice, your register tends to get lower as you get older. So
Yeah, so he had the voice change, and he's taken himself a little bit more seriously with the angel stuff. So it was so weird. I'll never forget hearing that, all the small things when they reunited. But anyway, so they get to Neighborhoods. Neighborhoods comes out. So to me, man, my favorite band was back, and so I love Neighborhoods. I have a very soft spot for Neighborhoods. I get that some of it might feel a little disjointed. I definitely feel like there's Tom songs, there's Mark songs, but really that's not much different than how they did things in the past. I mean, a lot of people don't realize it, but most of the songs they had, like Mark would always say, how did people would ask, how did you decide who sings the song? And he's like, whoever wrote it. I mean, he's
mm-hmm.
the one writing the What's My Age Again guitar riff. That's his song. He's the one who writes the Damn It riff. That's his song. So that part wasn't too crazy to me. But a lot of people shit on Neighborhoods because they think it was a little bit too much AVA with the delays and stuff like that.
Really,
Yeah, they really do. And to
that's
me,
interesting to me.
I thought it was a pretty cool, really snapshot of where they were at that time. Yeah, there's AVA elements. Tom's been playing in AVA for 5 years. That's how he plays now. That's the sound he's gravitating
Yeah,
towards.
yeah.
And then you still had Mark, Heart's All Gone. You had the Mark stuff, and then Travis and, bringing his elements. So what were your thoughts on Neighborhoods when you first heard it?
Well, it's funny, like you said. So, are you saying in '09? That's when they announced they were back together, and you said they did a tour?
Yeah, they did like the reunion tour.
Oh, I see. So
Yeah,
for me, them getting back together is like finding out that Neighborhoods is coming out because from 2000 on, you know, they're out of my league in terms of shows that I go to, right?
right,
So if they were touring in '09, that's off my radar because like they're not playing clubs, you know.
right.
Um, so for me, hearing, I think I probably heard about it a couple months before, like new Blink album coming out or whatever.
Yeah,
I was like, to me, that was like, oh, they're really back, you know. So I didn't view it as like a protracted working on an album period because they were just off my radar. Um, so yeah, Neighborhoods dropped. I remember like I pre-ordered the CD, and yeah, in preparation for these conversations, I went back and listened to everything, like from Buddha all the way up to Nine. And I just was listening to Neighborhoods like earlier today, and yeah, I really like it. Um, to me, it sounds like what I hoped Angels and Airwaves would have sounded like. So when Tom announced, I have a new band, and we have this song called The Adventure, and we have an album coming out. This, when I hear Neighborhoods, that's what I wanted to hear. So there's a little bit of synth, there's a little bit of arrangement and effects, but the tom riffs are there, the arpeggios and the hammer-ons are there,
Yeah.
the octaves are there. So all the little bits of skate punk that I kind of want scattered through are present.
Yeah.
So I almost consider Neighborhoods to be the best Angels and Airwaves album that was ever made. I look at it that way. Sort of the flip side of other people going, "Hey, we don't want Ava on our Blink." I'm like, no, no, no. That's exactly what that should look like.
That's
I
funny.
mean, Ghost on the Dance Floor is awesome. Natives is awesome. I like little bits of Up All Night and After Midnight because again, those are more kind of mid-tempo jams for me.
Yeah.
Um, I skip anything that has interlude in the title. Um, Heart's All Gone, that was the track that dropped in advance of the album. I think they did like a live video for it. And I was like, that song kicks ass.
Yeah,
That
it
is skate
does.
punk. That is straight ahead skate punk. And I think Mark at the time was like, yeah, it's more of a Dude Ranch feeling kind of vibe that we wanted for that one. That was the one that had me amped on the record coming out. And then like emotionally, I love Wishing Well. I really like Kaleidoscope. There are
Yeah.
moments of This Is Home, and for some reason, the MH418 2011 kind of gets me in an emotional place. Love is Dangerous, I can skip. Fighting the Gravity, I can skip. And even if She Falls, I really like. To me, that sounds like a Jacket track.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think to me, it's like their best record since Jacket. If it was a grudge match, I would take it over Untitled any day. I think Neighborhoods is great.
Kaleidoscope actually won, like when we're doing like where you vote for the best song on the album. You basically vote off your least favorite song each day, and you
Okay,
end up with the board's supposed overall favorite. And Kaleidoscope won the neighborhoods contest.
I could see that. I could see that. And
Yeah.
and I think what I liked about it is, I was approaching middle age. They're approaching middle age or at middle age, and I think lyrically to me it was strong. Not to diss Ava, but like Tom goes off in some really weird places that to me, I like lyrics that are more like literal and relatable as opposed to poetic and esoteric.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there are just really nice mature moments on Neighborhoods where it's adults talking about the adult feelings that they're having. And
Yeah.
they're not like, I like this girl. They're saying like, I'm having thoughts about this woman. So it's, you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
emotional. It's
I'm with you
still about
there.
all the things that they sing about, but it's at this adult level. It's like these are kids.
Yeah, Wishing Well is a great song, but you actually skipped one of my favorites on there. Do you know which one?
I don't know.
Snake Charmer, man. I love that
Is
song.
that the one? Eve in the Garden.
Yeah, but the thing is, and hear me out on this, when that guitar kicks in, man, that is to me as close to like a boxcar racer
Yeah, it's
riff.
that wow 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 wow. It's like mid-register octaves. Yeah, yeah. Sure. It's very boxcar. I would say Snake Charmer is very boxcar, which
Yeah,
might be why I skipped it in my track by track.
that's true. But yeah, to me, man, when that riff kicks in, like, oh, I just headbang. It's so rad. I
I,
love
I
it.
would agree. I really like the guitar work on Snake Charmer. For me, the lyrics fall apart. Even the garden, come on, we can get away
Yeah,
from the Sunday school metaphors, you know.
I
Um,
can see you there. But yeah, instrumentally, it totally kicks ass. And yeah, Natives is another one of my favorites on there. Uh,
he's just doing his little Eminem's dumpweed arpeggio stuff at the
Yeah,
end.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, right off the bat, the first song that I heard from that was Up All Night.
Yeah,
And a lot of people don't like that song. I fucking love that song, man. And I
it's
always have.
I like the lyrics. To me, it is that dragging radio alternate tempo that I just don't listen to.
Yeah.
But I think the minute I put it on and Ghost on the Dance Floor, well, I did the pre-order, so I got the MP3s I think before the CD. The
Hmm.
minute I spun up Ghost on the Dance Floor, and he's doing that classic Dude Ranch through Jacket low end notes, and I'm like, great, I'm sold. That's all I need.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
bucket those notes, Tom. That's cool.
Yeah. It's cool. I like Neighborhoods. I mean, I still
Yeah,
listen to it. pretty often, and I know a lot of people like just think it's terrible, or like you said, it's the best Angels album in your opinion, but a lot of people hate
Best
it
Angels album ever done. Yeah,
for that reason.
and with plus 44 kind of in the blending with
Yeah,
what
that's
Mark
and again,
blended.
that's what I loved about it is because I like Angels, I like Plus 44, and to me, it's all three of them probably clashing and saying, okay, if Tom has an Angels song and wants its way out here, Mark and Travis come in and say, nope, we need to pull this a little bit back. And Tom talks about that tension that all
Yeah,
three of them, they work best when they're cranking at each other and pulling each other apart until it has this
yeah.
happy medium, and that's what you end up with. So.
Well,
Uh,
and I think Neighborhoods to me really felt authentic. I think there were parts of Untitled which felt unresolved because they were like feeling like they needed to push themselves to create new things. Um, like that record seems like fraught with tension and how long they spent working on it in that house. But
yeah.
there's something about Neighborhoods that's just really authentic. And I don't know if you've heard this story. There's the story of the musician who's like, "Here's my new song," and the musician's friends are like, "Man, that's shit." And the musician's like, "Yeah, but this shit is who I am." And so, that to me speaks to no matter what the quality of the output or what the fans think about it, it's when the music is most authentic, is I think when it's most compelling.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're touring with Neighborhoods. The next release that we have to look forward to ends up being Dogs Eating Dogs. Nice little EP, little surprise during Christmas time.
Yeah, that was that one where like they're like Tuesday, there's an EP, and we're like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I still remember that. I ordered the bundle and it came with like a Christmas poster and
Did it even get a physical release, or is it?
no, it never
Yeah,
got a physical
if
release. And
only.
in
Yeah,
fact, some of the collectors, I put together one press and another collector put together the original one where some of us hardcore Blink vinyl collectors have had to go out of our way to essentially make our own bootleg press just to have a physical copy of it. Mark said they forgot to make physical copies, which is just wild. He has said recently that supposedly they're working on it. So I'll believe that when I see it drop. But yeah, so Dogs Eating Dogs comes out. Nice little surprise Christmas EP. Nice to see another release from the band. How did you feel about that one?
yeah. I mean, Boxing Day is "I Miss You" Part Two. So to me, that's a track I can just skip. I have no interest in Boxing Day. But when I put on "When I Was Young," and the title track. I think the title track hits the hardest.
It does.
Um,
Yep.
but when I was young, has some great moments. Pretty Little Girls got some interesting things, but for me, it falls apart when they have the guest artist rapping in the background.
A lot of
I,
people get pissed about that.
well, and not because like I love a lot of hip hop, man, but
Yeah.
this is my thing, right? And I get criticized on the boards for this, but I like my music like a TV dinner. You ever eat a TV dinner?
It's
And
been a while, but yeah.
there's a little compartment for the peas, and then there's one for the mashed potato, and then the beef is like separate. They're all in their own little separate things, and that's how I consume music. So I like my hip hop over here, I like my electronic over there, my punk rock over here. And when musicians really get excited, and I sympathize, they really get excited with putting it in the blender. That's not really how I eat.
Yeah.
So that's how I
Yeah.
do.
I asked Chris Holmes about that because, he engineered and co-produced that one as well. And I mean, that Yellow Wolf thing pissed off some people. I mean, people go out of their way to either turn off the song when he comes in, or there's YouTube versions without it. And Chris said that if he was going to redo it, that he would just cut it off right after the second chorus. He wouldn't even get "fuck the bridge," "fuck the Yellow Wolf" part. But to me, being a harmless EP, it wasn't that big of a deal to me, and I really like Yellow Wolf, and I'm all about Trav's like hip hop projects, and I listen to a ton of rap. And so shortly before that, he had came out with this Cycle White EP. I don't even know if you know that, but it was Yellow Wolf and Travis Barker. So it made sense to me because they were kicking it at the time and heavily collabing at the time. So to me, it was fine. Little did we know that was going to be the last Blink release with Tom. We didn't know that. But yeah, man, Dogs Eating Dogs, I love. I don't usually go out of my way to listen to Boxing Day. I love When I Was Young. Some of the lyrics in that one really hit me, man. It's like when he's talking about like when I was young, the cities were vast, the buildings were taller. I felt really small. What is it? I felt really something, my parents seem
It's like
stronger.
the innocence of childhood, you know.
Yeah, like some of those lyrics where he's talking about like my parents seem stronger, and the
Yeah,
cities, the something was vast, the cities were larger. So I don't know, I
yeah,
can't
and
remember
it's
the
I
lyrics.
mean, and musically, it's one of Tom's cliches, but I love when he sings the melody line and plays the octaves of the melody underneath the singing.
Yeah,
I just love
yeah,
that.
it's
He
a really
sings one and while he's singing. I just like
yeah, it's really good. And actually, Pretty Little Girl is my wife's favorite Blink song of all time.
that.
So that's another. It's a slow one, but it's great, man. So I love Dogs Eating Dogs. Criminally underrated, in my opinion. And I think people just, I don't know if it's because it doesn't have a physical copy or they just forget about it. But I don't know that people go back
Yeah.
and listen to that or revisit it a ton.
So you
Uh,
mentioned that the artist that's rapping on Pretty Little Girl had a relationship with Travis. They had done something.
Yes, his name's Yellow Wolf,
Okay.
and he and Travis had collabed shortly before that. Chris Holmes actually engineered it and may have produced it as well, but
Yeah.
it was called Cycle White, and
Um,
it was an EP, and it's dope. Trav plays all the drums, and
See,
then
this brings up it's a good segue to Give the Drummer Some, um,
yeah,
which I love that album.
because that was a little bit before. That was yeah, Trav dropped that a little bit before,
A little bit before this, yeah.
and yeah, I
Um,
was all about that album too, man. I
I love
love
throwing that one on in the truck with the subwoofer, and it's just I hear Travis kicking the seat,
yeah,
and then I can just listen to like some awesome hip hop stylings. Like that's the kind of thing where because it's already a genre, and then he's just coming to drum on that record. To me, I view that almost as like a jazz collaboration. So for me, that's not like the mixing of genres. I can keep my little TV dinner basically.
yeah.
That's just it's almost like when you see a hip hop artist live on stage, and then there's the drummer from the Roots or what have you. So like I was really into that.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've gave that a spin. I need to do that. I love that.
It's a driving. You got to be driving in the car with the nice stereo kind of.
It's dope. I think my favorite song on there is the Cool Head, who's like, I keep a cool head, I keep a cool head now.
There's
But
good production, nice little drop beats where they really push up the bass
yeah,
frequencies because they anticipate you driving around with a woofer in your
yeah.
car.
When I met Travis, I did not have him sign Enema. I did not have him sign Untitled. I did not have him
Really?
sign. Yeah, I did not have him sign Neighborhoods. You know what I had him sign? Take off your pants and jacket,
Uh-huh.
plus 44, and
Uh-huh.
give the drummer some.
Okay. Okay.
Those
All
were
right.
my picks. So yeah, I'm all about that. And actually, I've Travis really for the longest time was pretty much my favorite. I mean, one of my first tattoos is like the famous Stars and Straps thing. I mean, I was rocking famous for so long.
See, this is a great point to bring this up. Like I'm of the older generation, right? Rayner was my guy, right?
Right.
But as I've said, Travis is just like a remarkable human being, incredibly prolific and creative, and just one of the nicest dudes ever.
Yeah.
And people like to throw shade on the boards, about like, oh, this versus that, And my thinking about Scott Rayner and Travis Barker is it's like it's surf and turf. You got your steak and you got your lobster. So it's like no matter what record you put on, whatever style you're getting, I think they're both delicious feasts. So, I would put to rest any of this like, are you pro this guy or anti that guy?
Yeah. This is a good question. Do you think Blink makes it to where they are if Scott stays in the band?
That's not really a question of musicianship, is it? It's a question of what people wanted to do. So
Yeah,
I
that's
think,
the problem.
yeah, Scott, and I think we talked about this earlier. Scott wanted to be a mid-level Bad Religion touring theaters band, someone who's not on top 40 radio and someone who's not on what was then the big thing to be on, which is MTV.
Yeah.
So he wanted a different kind of career. So kind of like asking what would it be like if he stayed in the band is asking like what it would be like if he was miserable because they went on to TRL
Yeah.
because Mark and Tom were going to do that anyways.
Yeah.
That's
So
what the label wanted. That's what the two lead songwriters wanted. That's what DeVoe, the manager, wanted. So
yeah.
it made sense that let's get a new percussionist and keep our climb towards this goal that we wanted to achieve.
Yeah, and it's almost a two-part question because they probably, I mean, if Scott was miserable and didn't want that, then he probably would have been replaced at some point, regardless of who it is. And then the question become the second part of that, the question becomes, do they make it to where they are with Travis not in the band? Because I mean, they said that Travis, really took their stuff to a whole new level.
Yeah, but I mean, Josh Freese could have done that for them. Brooks Wackerman could have done that for him. There are tons of drummers in the genre. No diss on Trav, he's top marks, but there are a number of drummers in the genre that could have done the exact same thing for them. The fact that he was young and attractive, just like Tom and Mark, really helps. It's no coincidence that those who make it to the top of the pops are attractive people, right? It's not enough to write good songs. There's plenty of like unknown dead blues artists that wrote the best music you've ever heard, but they were like fat and ugly and were never on TV. So you do, and in our pop culture world, have to be an attractive person as well as a good musician to make it to the top.
Yeah, yeah, and they really had. I mean, a pretty nice combo going. I mean, there's not too many bands that I can name each member, and where shit, the drummer arguably is more popular than the guitarist and the bass player who are co-lead singers. So it's a pretty crazy dynamic when you
Well,
think
and he
about it.
deserves it. He's fucking good.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so
So
yeah, that's my thoughts on kind of the end of that kind of era.
yeah, and so back to Trav's like solo thing real quick. When
Okay.
I met Trav in 2017, I asked him about, when are you coming out with the next solo record? Because I really enjoyed the last one, and I know he's constantly working on new shit. And at the time, he said that his next solo record was done, except he was waiting on one verse from Kendrick. So that was 3 years ago, and that never came out. So I'm still wondering what the fuck happened to that. I don't know if like he dispersed that or just.
Yeah, but he's one of those guys where it'll be random. 5 weeks from now, he'll be like, new solo album on Tuesday. And like there will be no advanced press or anything like that. He'll just drop it.
And I'm actually still waiting on his. He recorded an entire album with the dudes from the Mars Volta for their band called Anti Mask or Anti Mosque. I don't know the
Yeah, yeah.
right way to pronounce it, but
Mhm.
that never saw the light of day either. Yeah. So, anyways, so we've talked about neighborhoods. We've talked about dogs eating dogs. And so obviously we had the second breakup here. Did you see this one coming?
Well, I mean, it's like breaking up with a chick, man. If it happens more than once, you're like, okay, this is just how this is gonna go. you know yeah, I mean, it was obvious. I think that Tom had a lot of other priorities. He's got his To the Stars thing. He's chasing UFOs. He's still heavily involved with Angels and Airwaves, so it makes sense. So when I
Yeah.
heard about it, I was like, meh, okay, whatever.
Yeah. So they were supposed to play. Trav had this festival called Musink that had been going on a couple years. This is set to be played in March. And so January 2015
Mhm.
is when I guess they're trying to get Tom. I don't know if it's a matter of like signing paperwork. I can't remember exactly how it went, or just to rehearse or just to confirm the date. And essentially, Tom says, I'm not playing that show. So Matt Skiba gets called to dinner at Travis's vegan restaurant called Crossroads for a special meeting with Mark and Trav. They sit him down, ask him if he would be willing to fill in. He probably shits his pants and says sure. And lo and behold, they do a couple warm-up shows, which I do believe one of those was at Soma, if I recall
Yep.
correctly.
Yeah, Soma, the Roxy. I don't remember if there's another one.
So they do a couple warm-up shows, and then they're set to play at Musink. At this time, I believe it's still billed as Blink 182 featuring Matt Skiba. And so you, I guess, hear about the show. What makes you want to attend this show? Because I think you went to it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So okay. Um, my good buddy Burke and I have been in a lot of bands together over the years, and like Alkaline Trio's always been one of our favorites. I've been in love with that band since From Here to Infirmary, which I think came out in '01.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to you about like records of the summer in '01, like Jimmy Eat World's Bleed American and Weezer the Green Album. From Here to Infirmary was one of those records of the summer. And I had heard Alk Trio before then, but From Here to Infirmary is when I fell in love with that band. And I used to be in a punk band called Arneson, and we covered Private Eye. Like every
Love
show,
that song.
every show we covered Private Eye. And we also covered we covered a one-off Good Morning too, but I can't remember which one. Anyways, So, I've loved Alkaline Trio enough to like, cover their stuff in bands that I've been in. Every single album, like Alkaline Trio for me is one of those bands that I could just, if I'm on a road trip, I could put all of their albums into one playlist and just shuffle it and be happy the whole way through. I don't skip an Alkaline Trio song. I'm happy with their entire output. So when my buddy Burke and I heard, dude, like Matt Skiba's filling in for fucking Tom. Are you kidding me? And
Yeah.
then we look up and it's Musync. It's the Orange County Fairgrounds. I grew up down in Orange County. So I got places I can crash. I can totally road trip down to there. And then I looked at the size of the venue, Ryan. This was the thing, man. I said I'm not an arena guy. So I looked at the Musync thing, and it was in one of the warehouses on the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
And the capacity was maybe double Soma, but less than like the Hollywood Palladium.
Yeah,
So
there's like a big hanger.
a smaller show than I saw them that last show with Scott when they headlined the Palladium. So I'm thinking to myself, I can see a general mission pit show smaller than the Palladium, and I get to see Matt Skiba just do what I thought was a one-off, just fucking fill in for Tom and rock Blink.
Yeah.
I tell my buddy Burke, and he's like, he looks on the website. Oh, there's a full beer garden. There's like a German brat beer garden attached to the thing, and we can stay at a motel across the suite that has a pool and everything. We're like, fuck, it's like bro vacation. We're fucking doing it.
Yeah, it sounds so
So
awesome.
so immediately bought tickets immediately, and it sold out in like 3 days. And like we got on that shit the minute it went on sale, and then said goodbye to the girlfriends and fucking bro road trip. Drove down, crashed out at the Motel 6 across the street. So we're on foot the whole time. So drinking and smoking and all the rest.
Sweet.
And yeah, that was the first time I had seen Blink since 2000.
Holy
So
shit.
yeah, so it had been 15 years, and the first time seeing them without Tom and seeing them with Skiba.
So where were you at in the crowd during this? You weren't on the rail, were you?
I wasn't on the rail, dude, and you'll
I was...
find this out as you get older, but you kind of retire back to where the bar is and where the beer is.
The rail's a lot of work, man. Like
Well,
I
it's
would...
kind of, yeah, there were two rails. So there was the rail, that was like actually in front of the stage, and then there was a bunch of kids, and then there was a pit. But what they did that was really cool is they knew that Blink had an older fan base too. So they did a second rail ride. So there was like a rail with the stage, and then the general mission pit. And then they had another rail that was a wall going down the side where you could like sit with your pint of beer and still be fairly close to the front of the stage,
Oh,
just
cool.
at a sharp angle, right?
Yeah.
So if you imagine the stage with the monitors and speakers, and then harshly down the right side, so down on stage left, which is Skiba's side, there was a rail, and this was the bros can drink like area.
They don't want to, yeah, you don't want to get
Yeah.
knocked
So
over and
I
spill
was
your
I was
beer.
the closest I could get to the stage, but still nurse a pint, which that worked out for me. Um,
So what was
and
it
they
like,
did
man?
well.
You see Blink take the stage for the first time
Yeah,
live in
it
15
was
years.
well, and just hearing Skiba nail the riffs and everything, like, I mean, I'd have to go on, Setlist FM or whatever to see what they played. But as I recall, it was just a greatest hits kind of set list.
Yeah.
Uh, I want to say if they played anything off something like Neighborhoods, it would have been just Up All Night and Hearts All Gone and nothing else. So
Yeah.
basically, unless it was a radio hit, pretty much no Tom songs, right? So you had the Tom songs that were hits like First Date and like what's
All the
the
small things, you
all
got
the
to play
small
that.
things, Carousel. I think they even played Eminem's. I want to say, which would have been rad. I'd have to look up on Setlist FM to see what they played, but yeah, it was rad. It was just drinking and smoking with my best friend Burke, and like we've loved Alkaline Trio for so many years, and he'd seen Blink with me back in the day, and we've been in so many bands together, and it was just a really cool like bro vacation. I'm sure you've been on those where it's just you and a buddy
Yeah.
going to see a show.
Yeah, I'd love to. I wanted to go to Music. It actually got moved this year, but I've been wanting to go to that for a long time, and especially if Blink's playing, I'd be fucking sick. So you see Blink, you get to kind of relive. I mean, did it just take you back, like, to back in the day, where you just living it up in the moment, enjoying it? I mean, did you enjoy the show? Like, did you think they sounded good?
yeah, I recall my buddy and I like walking back to the motel that night going like, man, Skiba fucking pulled it off.
Yeah.
Like right on. And again, we had no idea he would actually join the band and write songs with them. We
Yeah.
thought this was just a one-off thing to fulfill a commitment that they
Yeah.
had. And
And at that
Tom,
time, it probably was,
yeah, and Tom wasn't going to do it. So we were like, for us, it was kind of like one of those like rare like super group moments where we thought we're never going to fucking see this again.
yeah,
So it
that's
was rad for that reason.
That's pretty cool, man. So they play that show, and I think at that point they kind of get word that Tom's not going to be recording a new album anytime soon, and they've been trying to get him in the studio for years at this point. I believe Chris Holmes even said they were going back and forth and trying to narrow down a producer. They couldn't agree on it, all that stuff. So, needless to say, they get to the point, Mark and Travis, where they're kind of fed up with it, and they say, "Okay, we would like to continue with Matt Skiba," which ends up happening. So, later in 2015, that comes out. Do you remember hearing that? How'd you feel about that?
Well, I mean, before we kind of get there, seeing the band live again at Moose Inc. kind of rekindled this like nostalgia in me. Like I hadn't thought about Blink in a long time, or like they really weren't a band that I like played frequently in my like MP3 rotation. And then I started kind of feeling the feels, and you might see this as you get older yourself, but you have these like midlife moments where you like really get into an area of your past for one particular reason or whatever. Maybe a friend got back in touch with you, or a girlfriend that you had, or you found a letter or a photo or something. So me seeing the band live, I was like, I kind of like wanted to talk to other people about my experiences and about how much the band meant to me. And that is kind of what led me to sign up on whatever the website is for the boards, 182 online or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so it was only probably a few short months after that show. That show was March, I think. Only a few short months after that, I signed up to the boards and started sharing,
Uh,
and that kind of led to me like, I don't know, having relationships with the community, quote unquote, I guess you could say.
yeah, that's really cool. I meant to ask about that. So, really, in the time, years have passed. I mean, did you ever like bust out your letter from Mark? I mean, had you just not even looked at that shit in like 10 years at that point?
I hadn't, everything was in a box. When I was in graduate school, everything was like in storage, like a family
Yeah.
storage unit that my dad had, and like I hadn't. So yeah, I busted a lot of stuff out. That inspired me to go get all my negatives scanned. So who knows what happens to photos over the years, but I'm one of those guys that no matter what pictures I took back then, I had one box that I put all the negatives in. So whenever you got film developed at Walgreens or whatever, they give you the negatives too.
Yeah.
I had all of these in like a shoebox rag. So I went through them literally with a light table and a loop. You know what a loop is? That's the little lens when you look at something on a light table.
Yeah.
I had a light table, like one of these ones from like Michael's craft store, and a loop. And I went through all of my negatives to find all of the shots that were of Blink and other bands. Because I'd been on stage, backstage with Bad Religion, and like I'd taken photos at all these other shows. So I isolated all of those and I found a photo lab that would digitize them onto a DVD-R.
Mm,
And so that's, like the images I gave to you to kind of like promote the podcast. That was all of me getting super nostalgic feels after seeing them at NewSync and
yeah.
digging this box out and finding all those negatives and scanning all of that material.
Yeah, it's super cool, man. So yeah, you stumbled across the forums, blink182online.com. That's the forum that we're talking about that a lot of us met up on or post on regularly. So you join and right away, you're sharing tons of cool stories. You're interacting with Blink fans. You've really, I mean, there's several people who have contributed quite a bit to the timeline there, but you're one of the few people I know from back in the day who has came forward and just provided so much information and accuracy and stuff like that. So really for the Blink 182 history book that we're trying to keep over there, you've been an integral piece of that puzzle, man. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I have to thank really Moose Inc. because if I hadn't gone to that show, I might not have had this like nostalgic, hey, I should pull all that stuff out of that box that I've got.
Yeah.
Because it really was kind of behind me, other than like, oh, they have a new thing. I guess I'll pick it, I'll buy it.
Yeah. That's really cool, and that's part of, I ended up I think I lurked for a bit. At one point I signed up and quit, and then I eventually signed up. I wasn't too far behind you, but it's so cool to me to just interact with people who have like the same interests as you. It doesn't matter what it is. I mean, I have other interests outside of Blink, whether it's sports collectibles, and it's just fun to talk about people who appreciate and enjoy the shit that we enjoy or did at any point in time. Because, if I try to talk to this shit with my girlfriend or sister or something, they're like, I don't give a fuck what you're talking about right now. Who cares? So it is really cool. And part of what I love about Blink is the community. I've made so many online friends, like yourself out of it. I've had so many great memories, and it's just, I love seeing the cool shit. I love discussing the history of the band, and it's cool how it goes so much further than just the music for a lot of us.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, what do they say? Um, you don't choose your family, but what's special about your friends is you choose your friends. You know,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like I think about my friends back in the day, like my high school girlfriend Annie, my good friend Brooke that I went to New Sync with, my friend Brad. We were at the New Year's Eve show at Soma 95. When I got my short bus signed. Like those for me are like my Blink family because they were there seeing Blink with me back then.
Yeah.
But everyone I've met since, like you, Ryan, everyone else on the boards, are kind of like my Blink friends. You
Yeah.
know, the new generation of people that I've met through this common interest, as opposed to the people who were just organically part of the story, sort of the family from back then. So
Yeah.
it's cool. It's cool to add on to that group.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's really neat, a lot of the stuff we're doing with the board, so that, if and when Blink is done or we're done, or if we get hit by a bus tomorrow, I mean, part of the thing is like what I do with my signature study is like, I'm hoping that people collect Blink shit for a long time, man, long after I'm gone. And so for
Yeah,
us to
yeah,
kind of have that history written there and to kind of tell this story, maybe the podcast lives on if my credit card never gets canceled after I get hit by the bus and keep paying the podcast bill. But I think it's really neat what we're doing, and especially with the community there, it's been really cool. So I've always enjoyed seeing you post stuff. I know a lot of people flame there. There's trolls at
yeah,
times.
yeah, sure, yeah,
Uh, you just got to pick your battles here and there, but it is really cool. And part of what, when I go to a Blink show, man, part of what I love about it, other than just, seeing my favorite band in the world, but is just the sense of community. And like, man, that's the only time I see people rocking like a famous shirt or a Hi, my name is Mark shirt or a Blink shirt. Like, you're there with your people. It's really cool. And I don't feel that so much like with other bands. I mean, some of my other favorite bands like Muse, Tool, never been able to see Raging Against the Machine live, stuff like that. I don't really feel that sense of really like a super cool and tight knit community. So I think that's part of what really keeps me going with Blink and what I love so much about it.
yeah. I mean, any band I think that has like a multi generational fan base.
Yeah.
You kind of get that. Like when I was at Moose Inc., I was really surprised to see people there with their own kids. You
Yeah.
know, like people that had. Um, I think it was the show was general admission, but I think California, it's like it was probably like you had to be 15 maybe to be in that like area. Obviously not the 21 up area, but
Yeah.
there were people there that had like 15-year-old children. You
Yeah.
know, like
Mark.
you're going to get that in Southern California. You're going to get people that were fans long enough. You know.
Yeah. And Mark says that all the time. He's like, it's crazy. Like, there's people who have been fans since 93, 94, and now they're bringing their kids to
Yep.
the show. So it's
Yep.
really cool. I mean, no matter what people feel about, a particular era or this or that, whatever arguments you may have, I mean, it's so fucking cool that there's people who these albums have meant so much to so many people at different times, and that they're all able to come together and share these memories, or the camaraderie as a fan base, to me is just so fucking cool.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
So okay, so you join the boards, you get nostalgic, you're back into Blink. So do you find yourself just spending Cheshire on repeat for like the next 5 months?
Well, I'm a drummer, but I also play guitar and bass, and so like for me, I like playing along to my favorite records. So yeah, definitely, warming up the amp and like playing along to like Uranus, like my favorite. They came to Uranus, my favorite release, and yeah, definitely. putting them back into the mix a little more with my
Yeah.
all of my Fat Records and Epitaph bands that I'm still listening to and all that stuff. And then hearing like, oh, Skiba might record with them. Like I remember hearing that somewhere. It was probably on the boards because I was on there at that point, right?
Yeah.
From like May of 2015 on. So the minute anything breaks, I would see it on there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's going to record with them. So does that mean he's like a member of them? Or
Yeah,
is this
man.
going to be like a plus 44 like version 2? Like, are they going to keep the Blink name? That was the first thing I thought. Are they going to keep the Blink name without Tom? Because to
Yeah.
me, I don't know. It's like Fleetwood Mac, dude. Like Mick can't leave. He's he's Mick Fleetwood. He can't leave. They can't keep the name if he leaves.
Yeah.
And to me, yes, Scott was there from the beginning, but Blink is really the songwriting of Tom and Mark. So if Tom's not there, I thought they'd call it something else. And I thought it would be a plus 44 version 2. So I think, Ryan, I was very surprised that it was still going to be Blink 182, and now Skiba is just a member and Tom is not.
Yeah, and I get it. I mean, that was the first question on a lot of people's minds. But the thing is like to me, even if they would have tried to make that plus 44 again, like that's not so much plus 44. But the best way to put it, it's a new era of Blink. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. It's just a brand new era. You have to look at it that way because to me, like, yeah, Blink is Tom and Mark and Travis. Has certainly made his imprint enough at that point to be considered key piece, in my opinion. But Mark and Travis have spent damn near 15, 20 years building this up. They just want to play Blink music, and at some point enough is enough. So I get it. I mean, I know people
Yeah,
have
I
their
mean, what are we in 2020? So that means Mark and Travis have been playing together for 22 years.
yeah,
Their
man.
relationship is old enough to drink on its own.
Yeah, and so it reaches a certain point where it's like, okay, Tom, if you're not going to have time for us
Yeah,
and you're not going to commit to anything,
we
then
need to work with another dude. Yeah,
we want to play Blink song. That's the thing. Mark and Travis, I mean, they love Blink. They love playing live music. They want to tour. They want to play to big crowds and have fun all summer.
yeah,
Tom does not.
yeah.
And so, and then you start throwing in artistic differences, and we could go on and on about that. But it really is. I mean, it's a breakup at the time. I mean, since then, thankfully, I think things are a lot more cordial now. But at the time, I'm like, you know what? I love Blink. It's not happening with Tom right now. If they want to go with Skiba, I'm all for it. Let's fucking
Yeah.
go. And so, you know, Skiba's in Blink. They're continuing as Blink. It's not even Blink featuring Matt Skiba. So they start recording some songs. And at that point, actually, they were working with Tim Armstrong. And a lot of people, I mean, on the boards, we talk about this pretty often where it's like, it always comes up like, I think people would give their firstborn at times to hear what came of these first sessions, because I think a lot of people envision basically this perfect baby of plus 44 meets Alkaline Trio.
Yep.
And maybe it's incredible, but or maybe it's not. I mean, John Feldman, who they ended up kind of going with to produce, he said that some of the stuff sounded like plus 44, some of the stuff sounded like Alkaline Trio. It just didn't seem cohesive. I don't know. We'll never know probably.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
they go in with Feldman. They start working on what becomes California. So I don't recall you like following this a ton or whatever. I mean, did you even care at that point? Were you following it or looking forward to it, or were you just like, I'll check it out when it comes out?
Yeah. I'll check it out when it comes out, and I'll buy it when it comes out to support the guys. You know.
Yeah,
Um, Again, I thought it was like awesome that Skiba would be playing with them in the first place. And then when I found out it wasn't a one-off, I was like, well, let's see what we can get here. And
yeah,
again, Rye, like I mentioned earlier, my perfect dream is that plus 44 combined with Motion City soundtrack production style.
yeah.
Like, no diss on Feldy, and I'm a big fan of early Goldfinger. I actually covered with my buddy Burke and my high school girlfriend Annie. We covered Here in Your Bedroom in the
Okay.
high school talent show when we were seniors in 1996. So just to add a little Goldfinger bit to the lore there. So yeah, Feldy's a great guy. And he definitely knows what he's doing behind the board. When I heard about it, I was like, oh God, please let's have Alkaline Trio and Plus 44, and it's produced by Mark exactly like he produces Motion City soundtrack. Like
Wow.
that's what I was craving, right? Is that the
Yeah.
record would come out like that. The record that we got, I still think is good. Like when it came out, like I'd say there's half of it I still listen to regularly. And when they doubled up on the deluxe, I think the year later,
Hmm.
and gave us another some 15 songs, like looking at that playlist, that's 30 tracks there. Like I actually think the second disc, the deluxe disc, is stronger than the first one. Actually,
Yeah,
a lot of
I'm
people disagree
probably
with me on that.
yeah, I'm probably in that camp because, dude, I love like 6-8. I love Misery. I love Last Train Home.
I even
Uh,
love Parking Lot. Like there's
I
these
love
skate
Parking
punk
Lot.
moments. But
Yeah,
yeah, like
man.
Misery and Last Train Home is like Skiba being Skiba. Like that's
Yeah.
totally Alkaline Trio vibes that he's bringing into it. And
Yep.
the way they mix the lyrics a little more, where there's a bit of nostalgia, but they're still talking about being adults. And like I think a throwaway number would be like She's Out of Her Mind, which I think is just like singing about how I like the girl. And that's, to me, again, that's singing down. That's middle-aged men singing down to an 18-year-old audience. And the songs that I think are really hot are the ones where they're adults singing about adult shit. Like I don't know how you feel as a parent. I don't have children, but I'm an uncle. But listening to like home is such a lonely place. Like,
Dude.
and having Mark talk about that's about Jack growing up and he's got to let him go. Like, Jack has to go off to college at some point, and Mark doesn't know what the fuck to do with that information.
When I
And then you watch
first
the video that they made for that with
Yeah.
the footage. And then I'm even getting weepy watching Skiba with his dog,
Yeah,
Like,
dude. When I first listened to that song, I was mowing the grass and crying. Real tears mowing my grass. And I remember thinking, like, I hope nobody's looking at me right now because they're gonna be thinking, what the fuck is wrong with this dude bawling? And that was before I even had a kid. And I've listened to it since. And dude, like when that song comes on at the gym, because dude, I love California. I still bang it all the time. When
yeah.
that song comes on at the gym, or like if I'm jogging or something, like I have to skip it because now as a parent, it hits me even harder. And I'm not trying to cry at the gym.
Dude, so in preparation for this conversation just earlier today, I put on California Deluxe. I was playing on my guitar. Almost Such a Lonely Place came on. I'm still playing the root notes on my guitar and noodling around. Still got that little feels, got that little tear down the
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
It's a personal story for me, Ryan. So um, California came out summer 16, is that right? Summer
Yep.
2016. So I was preparing to leave California for the first time in my life. So born and raised, spent 4 decades here, 4 decades of my life, and now I'm moving off to another state. And just like when I went off to graduate school, I'm leaving a lady behind. A relationship of 5 years.
Mm,
Now we're going to try the long distance thing. Didn't end up working out. But for me, I mean, to hear the artist tell the story of the intention, Mark talking about Jack, is great. We as audience members all bring ourselves to the music, right?
yeah.
So when I hear that song, word for word is me driving with my buddy Tom with a U-Haul out of California, and I'm leaving her behind.
Mm,
And you can hear a song, right,
yeah.
where the artist went through something completely different, and yet every word maps to the shit that's happening in your life right now.
Yeah.
And for me, that's all about that separation. And I still can't listen to it without getting a tear.
Yeah.
And the other one, damn it, is the album's called California. So I'm on the road. I arrive in this new state, and probably 3.5 weeks later, this album comes out. And I get to that track, California. I'm fucking crying about the state, right? I'm just crying about a place.
Yeah.
And
Here's to
there's
you, California.
go for it. Like, but there's lines in that song, like spending time inside together. And I saw people comment, I think from the UK, and they're like, "What the fuck are you doing, blokes? Like, the weather's great in Southern California. Why are you inside? You should be at the beach." And I go, "No, that's fucking true. Because growing up in the suburbs in Southern California, when it was hot and shitty, you didn't want to skateboard. You want to stay inside in the air conditioning and play fucking Nintendo. So that spending time inside together is exactly the summer I had in sixth grade, in seventh grade, and eighth grade. Because it's
Nice.
105 and you just want to stay inside and play Nintendo with the air
Yeah.
conditioning on. So you are staying inside together. So
Yeah, I mean, I love like, dude. I mean, I remember when Bored to Death first came out, man. Like, we were so looking forward to this because I did not know what to expect. I mean, we really had no idea what was going to come. And dude, I mean, I love Bored to Death. I know a lot of people on the boards, and for those of you who don't know or haven't checked the boards, I mean, we got a lot of people who really love Tom and defend Tom, and for some reason they find that because of that they need to shit on the new era or whatever. But man, I love California. That summer to me was so fucking awesome. There was I had so many great times, and to me it was so fucking cool to see Blink active and happy. I mean, super active, super happy, so fucking happy and active that they went and recorded a deluxe right after and toured the very next summer, uh, as big as they did the summer before. So it was so cool, man. I remember seeing Blink with Skiba for the first time in Nashville. They had the flaming fuck sign in the background. That was awesome for me to see because I didn't see that back in the Takeoff days or whenever. They played M&M's at my show, which was cool. They were playing Carousel for a while. Um, so it was just really cool to see that Blink could continue without Tom. Blink was alive and well. Great album, great summer album. I mean, there's tons of songs that I still listen to all the time on that. I mean, I love Cynical, love Bored to Death. Left Alone is kind of my sleeper on that album. I love Left Alone. I love my
I think,
favorite.
yeah, when I got the pre-order rye, and again, it was like you get the MP3s in advance of the CD coming in the mail.
Yeah,
And the minute I loaded it into my iTunes and put it on my music drive, and Cynical started,
yeah.
and Mark was just like two string chord with a melody, and then he hangs, and then boom, Travis comes in with the blast beat, and then I'm like, holy shit, this is fucking skate punk. This
Yeah,
is great
man.
shit. I think my only criticism of that first disc of California is everything hangs in the same key register. So everything is very much, I don't know if you play guitar, but everything is very much C, G, A, F. They're noodling around that whole, and that's the same register that Damn It was written in. And so what I like more about the second disc is they break out into different keys. Like Mark's more confident about stretching his vocal range a little bit. He's letting Skiba come in because Skiba's at a higher register typically than Mark is.
Yeah.
Uh, he's letting Skiba drop in where he has those moments, as you mentioned with like 6/8. They're really playing with time signatures and exploring. And yeah, I definitely love that second disc. Yeah.
Yeah, my sleeper on the first album that's a low key banger is The Only Thing That Matters. Like to me, that's one that like I could see fitting on like Dude Ranch or like
Yeah.
older Blink. I
When
love that
Skiba
song.
does his alkaline, he does the whoa, 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 which is so alkaline, you know?
Yeah.
And people on the boards are like, Feldman's getting him to do these whoa whoas and nanas. I'm like, dude, that's straight up alkaline trio, dude, if you know their discography.
Yeah, he's been doing it on that. He still does it on some of the
Yeah,
newer
whoa,
Alkaline
whoa,
Trio.
whoa. That's what he does, you know?
Yeah,
Those
so
little gothic sort of wails, you know?
yeah, so I mean, I know some people shit on California. I mean, whatever. If you want to be miserable about it, my thing is just don't listen. It's all good. I mean, they're continuing Blink. People are enjoying the shows. I love when people are like, "Oh, there's low ticket sales. Nobody cares about new Blink. No Tom, no Blink." And I'm like, "Shit, I'm in a fucking packed house right here. There's 15,000 people at these shows having a great fucking time, and I'm right there at the front,
Yeah, I don't
having
know about you, Rye, but music again, it's just food. You don't want to go to that restaurant, don't go. It's gonna fill up with other people. So
yeah, it's all good. It's all good. And
yeah,
to me, like I've had so many great memories from that summer, from the following summer. I mean, if it wasn't for them getting back together and continuing this without Skiba, I never would have met Mark probably. I mean, that was the first time I got to meet Mark, which was
cool.
rad. And then I met Travis and Skiba. I mean, just insane, awesome memories that I've had in this new era of Blink that's still going, man. So yeah, that next summer Deluxe drops. I
Well,
still love.
let's rewind from Deluxe.
Okay.
So summer 16, I leave California for a new state. I said, Lynn, that album comes in. I'm having major feels with those two songs as I mentioned,
Hmm.
and then I see, okay, they're coming by on a tour date in September, about 2 hours from where I live. And then
Okay.
I look online because I don't do the arena thing. I'm not going to sit in a seat. And I go online. Okay, it's a smaller, like hockey rink kind of venue, and it's general admission floor tickets. So that means I can go all the way through the pit to the barricade if I want to.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, okay, and I had someone I could crash with close by. So 2 hour drive, I have a place I can crash, and it's a general admission show. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. So this was so it would have been that California tour. It's the
Yep.
one where they had a unique they had a different artist do a unique poster design for every single date.
Yeah.
I think people collect those, in fact.
They do.
Uh,
Yeah. They're tough to collect. They're huge. I don't have anywhere to put them.
I mean,
I've got one from my show behind me.
I bought the poster from that date and framed that fucker, and it's
Sick.
actually one of the hottest designs I think.
Yeah, the one I have behind me is that first show I saw with Skiba in Nashville. It's a monk
Yeah,
one.
yeah. So I wore my classic smelly old shit Hanes Scott Rayner Blink logo tee, the
Yes.
first design that Tom ever did, with the Wiener cartoon on the back that I've had since the 90s. No one fucking recognized it. No one had any idea what it was.
Nice.
Um, it's always hard when you're on the barricade and you're trying to say hi to your favorite musicians on stage. I want to say Mark got an eye on it, and this would have been during the encore because I was kind of going like this and holding up my shirt so he could see the classic bunny. And he's not going to recognize me. I got a white beard now and whatever, and they're all old as shit too. But it was rad to I just ignored the openers. I had no idea who was playing. I had some beer. I went down to the floor. They're all like kids, right? Like everyone in the pit. I don't know about your show. Everyone in the pit was like 20, 22. So I'm just mowing through them, I'm in my
Excuse me.
40s. Get the fuck out of my way. I'm swimming right through all of this shit. So I started behind the edge of the pit when they opened up. I think they opened up with Cynical. Made my way through the pit through the first numbers. And by the third track, I was on the rail in front of Hoppus, and I stayed there all the way until the end of the show.
Sick.
And that for me was great because although music was awesome, I was off to the side in like that drinker section, and I wasn't on the rail like I had been in like '96 or '97,
Yeah.
So that for me was like pretty emotional. It's pretty rad. And I think he got a glimpse and kind of a what's up to the when I showed him the Rainer shirt there.
Give you a
Um,
nod.
who knows? Who knows? But it was great. Skiba was on point that night, and that was awesome. And I waited in line because I was not going to carry the fucking poster into the pit with me. You don't do that. I
Yeah.
waited in line after their performance was done for almost a full hour to buy that poster in the tube so
Oh
that I could
shit.
take it
Yeah.
home and frame it up.
It's a good thing they weren't sold out.
Yeah, they weren't. They weren't that night.
Yeah.
Or
Dude,
whatever.
once you see a show on the rail, like, oh my God, it's so hard to see it any other way.
So you understand how I feel now, right? When in
Oh,
'95 and '96, every show was on the rail, right?
yeah. Dude, I mean, the past like 10 Blink shows I've gone to, like, I'm on the rail and I'm pissed if I'm
You're
in
mad
the
if you don't
second
get
row.
up there.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
when I went to the Vegas shows, like, dude, and I get there so early. You know, I'm one of those people like you got to get there early for this shit, and
Either 3 in the afternoon, right? Whatever.
you got to stake out and you got to hold your spot. And there's two funny stories about this. One, in Vegas, you know, we lined up at the residency and we were lined up forever. And then they kind of walk us down to the two little spots where you can get in. And they let the other side of the line in before the people who were lined up first. And I was fucking pissed. Yeah, I was
That's
pissed.
like sacrilege,
I
dude.
know, and you have like these noob security guards, like they don't
They
fucking
don't know.
know,
They don't
they
know the
don't, and I'm
scene.
just like, that is so fucked up. My buddy's like so pissed, and so we were in the second row at that show, and it just pissed
Yeah.
me off so bad. But it was still, I mean, that show was a pretty small venue, but it was
I
still
mean,
great.
one of my great getting to the rail struggles was that last show with Scott. They're headlining the Palladium. The Palladium's a huge fucking floor. It's like 5,000
Yeah,
people. So having to spend because if you start by the time the openers, there's no way.
yeah,
So you have to go in when doors open.
yep,
So that's an hour before the Aquabats go on, which then another hour for homegrown, then another hour, and then Blink. So you can't leave to go to the bathroom. Like you
nope.
cannot leave. So you don't drink water for the whole day.
This is
You
gonna
spend
tie in
you
perfectly with
spend the
mine.
entire time getting up and fighting, and then you have your spot for the first opener of four fucking openers before the headlining band is going to go on.
Yeah,
And I've got a disposable camera in my junk because I want to take pictures.
yeah,
Um, this is just so the musicians know, man. This is what we go through.
This is what we go through. Yeah. So here's the last one. This was last
Yeah,
summer. So I
yeah.
see Blink.
Oh,
This
so
might have
you've
been,
seen them since the California tour?
yes. Yeah. I saw him California tour twice. I saw him deluxe once. I saw him twice in
The
Vegas.
Vegas
And
residency,
then I
yeah.
saw two Enema anniversary shows last summer, which
Oh,
was
you did.
fucking killer. Yeah.
You did.
So last summer,
Did Stephen nail it? Like even Dysentery Gary, did he get all the riffs?
he did, man. Yeah, he did. He crushed it. And so, dude,
Okay.
these Enema shows were so sick. So one of the ones I went to, I think it was the St. Louis one that I
Mhm.
went to. And so like you were just alluding to, I have a small bladder, man. So I gotta pee like a motherfucker. And when I go to these
You can't drink
shows,
water all day, man, to
I
go to that.
know that I can't, once you get your spot up front on that rail, you can't go pee.
Damn.
So I don't drink a bunch of water before these shows. It's like I have to like plan ahead for this shit.
Yep.
So I wasn't drinking much water. Um, so I'm on the rail, the gates open. We actually had we did the VIP sound check thing, which is really cool. It's like one of my favorite things.
Oh,
So
did they come out and play a couple songs just for
they
like a
come out,
small
play a
group?
couple songs, kind of interact with you a little
Yeah,
bit.
I've done that for Motion City soundtrack. They would come like play acoustic for the few
Yeah.
people who were there.
And part of why I do it and it's worth the money for me is usually those people get to stay in the facility. You don't have to go back out and re-queue or line up. So that is an additional like advantage to, having that ticket is you're going to have a good chance at being up front. So sound check's over and then we get let in, 30 minutes before or whatever. And so I'm posted up. Now it's a hot day in St. Louis in the middle of fucking summer. I haven't had water since 2 o'clock because I don't want to have to pee and give up my spot. So Neck Deep came out. They kick ass, by the way. They have a new album that kind of a
Are they the British pop
they're
punkers?
British, yeah, kind of
Yeah,
a punk
yeah.
pop punk band, and they really
With a
grew on
little
me.
skate beat. Yeah.
They grew on me a ton after seeing them twice on this show, and so they're coming out, and I'm dead center right up front, and dude, all of a sudden I start seeing black, and I like all of a sudden like my knees like give out from underneath me and I have to like grab onto my buddy. And so I'm down on a knee. My buddy's like, dude, are you okay? And I've never had this happen, man. Like I couldn't see. And I was like, dude, I can't see right now. Like we might have to go. And
Wow.
he's like, are you sure? Are you sure? I'm like, dude,
Blacking out.
yeah. I was like, I'm blacking out, man. And bless this little lady's heart behind me. She had a huge thing of water because I didn't have any water. And all I had was a beer. I had like one beer, which is probably the worst fucking thing to have when
You
you're
basically removed water from your
yeah,
body,
when
and
you're dehydrated. And so, and I hadn't even drank all of it. And so this lady, shout out this lady, if I ever see you again or listen to the pod, she gave me like this huge thing of precious water she had. And so I just chugged as much as I could. She was like pouring it down my neck because I started sweating like crazy. I couldn't fucking see. And so for like half of Neck Deep set, I'm like down on a knee, like begging myself to not pass out so that I don't have to ruin not only my view of this Blink show that's about to happen, but my best friend
oh
who's with
man,
me,
yeah.
my Blink buddy. And yeah, lo and behold, that was like the first time I really had to deal with like major dehydration during a show, which is crazy. So I was like, I'm getting too fucking old for this shit.
But
Um,
you did survive. You did prevail.
I did survive, and so here's what's funny is like Neck Deep plays, so I'm alive. I enjoy their set, and then so Lil Wayne comes on next, which I dig Wheezy. It was cool, whatever, but a whole different crowd of his people are in, and I don't know what the fuck is wrong with people where they think you're just gonna give up your front row spot because you like Lil Wayne behind me. But this guy keeps tapping on my shoulder and he's like, my girl likes Lil Wayne. Let her get in front of you. Can she get in front of you? I'm like,
No.
no,
No.
absolutely not. And then this
There is
lady,
nothing more American than first come, first serve.
it's
That
like,
is an American value, Rye.
yeah, and this lady like is tapping on my shoulder. She's like, I'm a big Lil Wayne fan. Can I be up front? I'm like, absolutely not. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be a dick here, but
I'm risking my health to
yeah, I've
keep
been
your
standing
spot.
here for 3 hours and almost just fucking fainted.
Yep.
I'm not giving up this spot because Blink is about to hit the stage and I'm enjoying this view. I've earned this view. But yeah,
Well, it's funny, at least in SoCal, when you were at Soma or at Palladium or the Palace or the Roxy or any of these places, the security were usually pretty cool. And if you were on the rail and you look like you were in trouble, they'd give you a bottle of water. They'd give, I've seen them give like towels to women to wipe their faces off or
yeah,
whatever. they're pretty sympathetic. At least that was my experience with those folks.
Yeah, so man, front row, dead center, and I don't know if you've seen any of the videos from that tour, but one of the coolest things they did is for the Enema set. So they start off by playing Enema front to back. Trav's drum kit was at the very front of the stage.
Oh,
So not pushed in the back, no drummer in
oh,
the back. So to see Travis crush Enema front to back, literally like I can almost reach it, was
yeah,
incredible. And
wow,
Mark was having so much fun. I mean, that's the
yeah.
thing, man. It's like Mark is having so much fun at these shows. I can just see it.
I mean, that
Uh,
was my impression in 2016 on the California date that I went to. Is that all three of them, like Skiba, Barker, and Hoppus, they were all just having a fucking great time.
yeah.
And I have no greater respect for someone who's having a good time, doing what they fucking love, and that's what they're paying the mortgage with.
Yeah. I mean,
So I have no shade to throw at any of that.
yes, I mean, believe me, I'm a huge Tom fan. I read all his books, I read all his comics. I'm a huge To the Stars supporter and all that stuff. I get it, but for the people who just shit on Skiba just because he's not Tom, or just hate any of the new Blink just because Tom's not there, it's a bummer. I mean, I just hate dealing with it, and I hate that they almost feel like, you're stupid for liking Blink when Tom's not there, and it's like, come on, guys, I'm having so much fun at this
Well,
at
you,
this
you have to
shows
admire
and
Matt's
everything.
sense of humor, right? So he knows that a lot of Blink fans that are more mainstream rock fans don't know who the fuck Alkaline Trio is.
Yeah,
So he owned that, right? Right from Moose Inc., he's got the shirts and the stickers. Who the fuck is Matt Skiba,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
he knows, so he's going to make a joke out of it, right? He's embracing it. He knows that they have no idea that he's been in one of the most influential and popular bands of that genre for the last 20 years because these kids don't know. They're mainstream kids.
yeah, yeah. And Matt has been so cool throughout. I mean, he gets so much shit and just fucking
Yeah.
comments that just make me cringe all the time. And it's like, come on, guys. I
My,
mean,
my view is if you're giving other people shit, you probably need to take a look at your own self.
it's just like good grief.
If
So,
you got energy for that, you know?
yeah. I mean, how I could go on forever. Anyways, so
Anyways.
you catch them on the California tour. So you did enjoy the show up front. Really cool.
Oh, that was such a great experience, man. I mean,
Cool.
Music was that's what the nostalgia that got me back. But to be on the rail again, I felt like I was at the Palladium in '98. It was just me and Hoppus, eye to eye. He's doing his thing.
That's cool, man. That's
That was
cool.
cool.
So Deluxe drops. We've touched on this a tad. Anything else we need to get into? I mean, I love it pretty much front to back.
Yeah, I think it's great to listen to all the way through. I actually like doing in my iTunes. I don't have it as two discs. It's just like 1 through 27 or whatever,
Yeah.
as one album. And then I like shuffling it because then you get a better mix. You break up, I think, a little bit of the chord progression key monotony of the first disc by shuffling it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And clearly they were being a tad bit more experimental with, like the stuff like 6/8 and Last Train Home, stuff like that. It seems like they're kind of finding their way with Skiva a
yeah,
little bit
for sure.
more.
Yeah.
So they do the tour with that album, and they kind of go right back on the road that following summer. Then they get back in the studio, so we know they're working on their next album. It took a little bit longer than expected. Supposedly, the last summer's tour was supposed to be based around Nine. Nine wasn't out yet, so they kind of rebranded it as this Enema of the State 20th anniversary, which ended up being killer. In my opinion, those shows were just fucking insane. And
Yeah,
so,
nine was a fall release, wasn't it?
yeah, so we don't get Nine until literally the last day of the tour. Nine dropped. Can't remember the exact date off the top of my head, but it was, yeah, closer to September. And so Nine comes out. So, do you have any thoughts on Nine? Did you enjoy it? Favorite song, stuff like that?
Yeah, I pulled it back out to listen to just to kind of be prepared for our conversation. I've listened to nine, I think 3 times. I think I listened to it twice the week that the I did the I bought it digitally. I didn't end up getting the disc until later.
Mm,
And I wanted when I got the disc, I got the Japanese edition because it had that extra track.
yeah.
But for the U.S. one, I just bought the digital. I listened to it twice. I think the week it came out, and didn't listen to it again until this morning.
So clearly not your favorite Blink album in the world.
Yeah, I really liked when that video for Generational Divide dropped. That got me excited.
Yeah.
I think they were like with Hearts All Gone, they were kind of baiting the hardcore fans with here's some fast aggressive shit, motherfuckers,
Yeah.
and it's a fun little jam. Um, so yeah, it's not that it's a bad album. It's just so far away from what I listen to on a daily basis.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, if I listen to rock music with distorted guitar, it's wicked fast and wicked aggressive. You know, that's what I listen to on the daily. So the high moments, I like First Time. I actually really like First Time.
Yep.
That for me could be a Neighborhoods track easily. Um, let's see.
First Time is one of my favorite Blink songs of all time. Not even
Generational
kidding.
Divide is really, really good. Um, I really like that fast part in Ransom.
Yep.
I think I would have loved it if the whole song was at that tempo.
I know.
Um,
Along with Generational Divide, there's a couple of songs on there where I'm like, God, I would kill for another minute, minute and a half.
yeah, yeah, because I mean, it's not. I think there's an impression that like if you're playing fast, it's somehow less musically complex. Which, if you've heard a drummer like Travis or Josh Freese or Brooks Wackerman, you know that's not the fucking case. Um, so I love it when I can hear Travis at a full steam gallop with breakbeats. Like I love that shit. Of
Yeah.
course, it's impressive all the other stuff that he does, but for me, that's the shit that I
Oh, he
like.
crushes Generational Divide for
Yeah,
sure.
and then I think the other track I really like is I really like Out of My Head. I feel like that's the Not Now of the record.
Yeah, I can see
Where
that.
I'm like, man, they left that off. Really?
Yeah.
That's a really good song. I could see Out of My Head on Cali Deluxe or even as a Neighborhoods track.
A lot of people
Um,
feel that way with Hey, I'm Sorry on California. That was the bonus track for,
I totally feel that like, yeah, Not Now. Hey, I'm sorry, and Out of My Head is like that could be a little EP. Just
yeah.
those three tracks. But I think the rest of it, I think the lyrics are interesting and adult. I think where it goes production wise is not my cup of tea. I just leave it at that.
Yeah. It's interesting because it's almost in the same vein as Untitled for you. And interestingly enough, when Mark was mentioning the writing and recording process of that, he kept saying it's like Untitled. We're recording this like Untitled. Now, people misconstrued that and they thought that he meant that it was going to sound like Untitled, which was not what he meant. What he meant was it's kind of the anything goes. We're not going to be stuck in a certain sound or have to write, a pop punk song or anything like that. We're going to do whatever the fuck we want. So in
Yeah.
that sense, I respect it. I love Nine. I listen to it all the time. It's hard for me to pick. I don't know if I could pick between Cali Deluxe, and Nine. I'm sure it's probably easy for you.
I'd say Cali Deluxe. If we're counting those as three things on a table I can grab, I would
Yeah.
grab that second disc, that Cali Deluxe.
I definitely think of Cali and Cali Deluxe as separate albums for sure. Yeah, it'd be tough, man. I don't know. It depends on the day. I feel like I could pick a different one at each day.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyways, so Nine's the last release we have from Blink up until now. Now Mark is actually, he just mentioned that he was working on a new song for LP 10. So I do think
And
there's
aren't we getting like a one-off, like a quarantine track or something
yeah,
like that?
so Quarantine has not dropped yet. By the time this podcast comes out, surely it would have. It was supposed to come out within the next 2 weeks,
Mm.
but then I think with the protests and the situation going on right now in the world, I think it's probably in poor taste to release at this moment. So I think they're pushing it back a little bit to kind of, let that movement kind of have its voice like it needs to have right now. So I do think
Yeah, it
we'll
was
get a
kind
new
of cool. I
track.
saw Travis was out there in the streets in LA.
Yeah,
He
Travis was out walking the streets with Machine Gun Kelly, and Mark
Machine
has
Gun
always
Kelly.
been pretty vocal about basic human rights and
Dude, did you hear their Rage
decency.
cover? They did that Rage Against the Machine cover.
Yes, I did.
That
So
was terrific.
I mean,
I
some of my
love that '92 album, Rage. So
favorite my favorite bands. If I really had to crack down and pick, it's probably Blink, Rage Against the Machine, and Nirvana are probably my top three. Okay, in the past fucking month, I've seen an entire Nirvana tribute of Travis playing drums too. I don't know if you saw that, but he played tons of Nirvana songs, like deep cuts he did with this rapper artist Post Malone. So
yeah,
that was
yeah,
insane. And
yeah.
then
Post Malone.
shortly after that, I just see Travis killing in the name of a Rage Against the Machine song. So I'm like, holy shit, what a
I
month.
mean, I'm one of these guys that likes to look for the silver lining. And one thing about this whole quarantine lockdown, let's look at all the amazing like music we've gotten out of it. Like
Yeah.
so many artists that I love are like face to face did a track by track go through a big choice and like if Trevor and Riddle are like playing songs. Like
Yeah.
Jimmy World, he like Jim Atkins did a whole like series where he's playing in an empty venue every week. We've
Dude,
had all
Mark
these like collabs and stuff. Yeah, Mark like doing the Twitch stuff. It's been
Mark did
really
Twitch
great.
stuff playing plus 44 on
It's so
acoustic
cool.
in
It's so cool.
2020.
If
Are
you're
you
stuck at
fucking
home
kidding me?
anyways, and you don't have to worry about being out of money, you might as
Yeah.
well do a stream thing or do stuff for benefits like he's been doing with the Children's Hospital. You know, it's great.
Yeah, yeah, dude. And so once I heard that Travis and MGK do that Rage Against the Machine cover, man, I've been on a rage kick the past
Oh,
like
the
week.
video where they have all the protest footage, it's so
Yeah,
awesome.
dude. So
It's
I went
really
back and listened to, that original Rage Against the Machine album just the other day, and it reminded me, man, I used to play that album so often and
oh,
play
we
guitar to
used to
that all the
skateboard to it.
time.
That was always that
Yeah,
was the cassette, like 93, summer 93. That was the cassette in the boombox with the skate kids. Like the
yeah.
minute Know Your Enemy came on, it was like, oh, slamming.
Yeah, and it really reminded me like how much my own music has been influenced by like Rage Against the Machine, like the way I play like riffs and the way I come up with like funky, I don't know, hammer-ons and stuff like that. It's very influenced by Rage, and I haven't been on a Rage kick in a while, so it's nice to be back in there. So,
Sure.
anyways, all right, we're reaching to the point where I'm gonna get into some rapid fire, I think, if that's where we're
Yeah.
at. You
Yeah,
ready?
let's do it. And I have a couple last gems for you. So
Okay, nothing too crazy here, but favorite Blink album of all time. I think I know this.
does it have to be album or can it be release?
Well, I think I know both of these for you. Let's do
Yeah.
release because I
So
think I
if
know
it's going to
this.
be released, it's They Came to Conquer Uranus, and I would say the Uranus sessions. So that includes the original recording of Lemmings, also done with Jeff Forrest, as well as their cover of the Good Times television show theme song for the Taylor Steele Good Times tour.
Okay.
So now, if we're going to say it has to be an album, it's really tough. I think Dude Ranch is a superior record, but sentimentally, there's always a difference between the best and the favorite, right? You have to be
Yeah.
objective about best, but favorite is different, right? So I think Dude Ranch is a superior record to Cheshire Cat, but I think emotionally Cheshire Cat's more important.
I can see that. Favorite Blink song all time.
Oh
You got
man,
one song to listen. You can only pick one Blink song to listen to for the rest of your life. What are you picking?
I have to go with best track and the sentimental track. So I think sentimental wise, because of my high school girlfriend Annie and I, and that relationship and our times with the band, I think Wasting Time is that moment. Um,
Awesome.
but I think my favorite Blink song of all time, I don't think Mark has written a better Blink song than Apple Shampoo. I'm going with Apple Shampoo.
Okay. One really cool thing about Wasting Time that came up on that last tour last summer, and another reason it was so special, this show, I don't know if you saw it, but Mark, at a certain point during the show, him and Skiba would go out into the crowd and they would pop up with acoustic guitars and acoustic
Hmm.
bass,
Hmm.
and he would fucking play Wasting Time on
Mhm,
acoustic.
mhm,
So to
mhm.
me, it was so special because I don't get to hear these deep cuts live, man. I wasn't there and back in the day seeing these shows. So to hear Wasting Time live was
So
really,
does he do Tom's um, riff, or does he only play the recording?
Skiba was cording it up. He was cording it.
Okay,
But
okay,
it still sounded great just to hear Mark sing it. It was awesome.
that's cool.
And I don't know if he used to add this back in the day when they would play it, but he says, or a girl, or and a girl, or a guy at the very end.
That's new. That's new. Mark used to alter M&Ms quite a bit back then. Um, so instead of candy and cigarettes, and we'll get in my car and we'll drive to Madagascar, he would say, get in um, get in our van instead of my car. He'd say, get in our van and drive to fucking Iran. Um, he did that all throughout 95 and
Yeah.
96.
Yeah.
Um,
That's how he ended the wasting time acoustic. Wasting this time thinking about a girl Or a guy.
And then he also used to do a little joke about Anne in M&M's. So he said, "Take my little sister in the bath,"
Okay.
which is kind of a fun joke because Anne was like their merch person at that time. So
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Favorite piece of Blink memorabilia that you own? You got a lot of super rare rad shit, man.
yeah, I mean, I have an original Fly Swatter cassette, an original Demo Number Two, an original Buddha cassette. I have an original Attic Children cassette. So I'm the source of all of those MP3s that live out there online. Those come from my original tapes.
Mm,
I have my short bus that was signed by Mark and Scott. Tom was in the bathroom. Damn it, Tom. That was signed by
yeah,
Mark and Scott when I was with my good friend Brad at the Soma New Year's '95. I have my Scott Rayner, original Blink Bunny shirt with
I know.
Tom's like wieners drawing on the
You
back.
have too
Pat
much rad
Stecker,
shit. It's so
Pat
hard,
Stecker
man.
mailed that shirt to me. So I don't know. I really can't say.
It's tough to
I
say, man.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I,
Wh-
I love my replicated sticker strat and my Ampeg VL1002 with the Blink plate on there. Maybe you can show a picture of that. But
So,
yeah,
so house is on fire. You got time to grab one thing.
ouch. What would you do, man? Sports
I've
sports autograph guy. All your posters on the walls there. Well, I mean, you're taking your kid. Obviously, you're taking your fucking wife and
Yeah,
kid.
this is assuming that the family and the pets are safe.
Assuming that the family is like safe and you can run back in to get
Yeah,
something.
you can only
Well,
grab
I'll
one
flip
thing.
it back on you, Rye. What would you grab?
I think it would be a toss up between my full band signed Take Off Your Pants and Jacket vinyl, which it is insanely hard to get all three of them on really anything, but much less a vinyl that came out after they've been broken up and such. So that's
Yeah.
obviously a special piece. Took me years to complete. Or I have a plus 44 vinyl signed to Ryan by Mark and Travis. So I think if I had to,
Probably gonna grab that. You're probably
I'd
gonna go with the
probably
plus
grab the
44. Yeah,
personalized plus
yeah,
44
for
one.
sure. I mean, I would just run into my room in my house where I have my Blink wall and just grab as many things as I could.
Just shove them
Probably, I would just probably randomly grab. I mean, not stuff you can get like Uranus and Lemmings, but like I'd grab as
in.
much of the shit you can't get as I could.
I mean, your fly swatter and your Buddha tape, like they have to be grabbed for
Yeah,
sure.
my demo too. I have those in a case. I would probably just grab that.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah.
Okay, favorite memory. You know, we've talked about this. You've taken the trip kind of down memory
Oh
lane.
my God.
What's your
Oh,
favorite memory? Like looking back on all these great times, man.
that's so hard. I mean,
I know.
from being in the Josie video to like
It's got to be Mark's
going to the
apartment.
movies with Mark and Tom and just hanging out at the apartment or hanging out with Ann or I don't know,
Yeah,
helping Scott load up his drums. The
yeah,
time Reamer played us, the unmastered Dude Ranch cassette, let us borrow that. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's probably when Mark called up my girlfriend and was like, "Hey, you guys want to go to the show?" Left that voicemail. Hey, you want to go to the show? And we got to be on stage with like Kari was there, like Tom's sister was like standing across from me, and we're like on stage at Soma, and I got to take
oh
those
gosh,
pictures.
that'd be fucking cool. Yeah, that'd be so
I,
awesome,
I I
man.
don't know, it's tough. When Mark gave me that bear hug and whispered in my ear about the Josie video, I felt he was like, hey dude, I'm doing you a solid. Like
Yeah,
you've been around a long time, you've been hanging out and my sister and I've known
yeah,
you before, and that to me was like he didn't have to do that shit. He could have
yeah,
just been like out of there. And I think the band was enough on the way up where I don't feel like he had to do that to some old school guy.
yeah,
But he
yeah.
just gave me a bear hug and was like, dude, come be in this video. And
There's
that
been
was
like
really meaningful to me.
yeah, and there's a lot of stories like that I've had from guests where it's like, you know, I had an artist on Terminal Radness, and this was when Blink was already huge. This is Takeoff days, 2001. He runs into Mark, and he's a kid. He's 14, 15, stoked to meet Mark Hoppus. And he's like, "Hey, Mark, I want to give you my demo tape." Oh, fuck, it's in my car, and it's going to take me 20 minutes to get to it. Mark waited there, famous as fuck. You already know he didn't have to do that. It could have been gone, could have ditched. He waits for these 14 and 15-year-old kids to run to their car, bring back their demo tape, and hand it to him just to do them a solid, just to be cool. I mean, to me, those stories are just so priceless,
Yeah, and
man.
in another day he might not have, because we're human beings, right? We're human
Yeah,
beings. I don't expect anyone to be a fucking saint.
yeah,
So it's like the fact that you meet someone who has like power and fame and celebrity and wealth, and they don't like actively spit on you, is like incredible, right?
yeah.
And I've met so many, I don't know about you, Ryan, I've met so many musicians that are just fucking assholes.
Oh
They're
yeah,
full of themselves, they're just pieces of shit. So I will say this about Mark Hoppus and Scott Rayner and Tom DeLonge and Travis Barker and fucking Matt Skiba, is that none of them are pricks. So like that's
yeah,
awesome. Just be a good human being, and they all are to the last man.
yeah. And none of them owe any of us shit. That's
No,
one thing that
no,
a lot of people don't like to hear or like to
no,
encounter. But in the reality, I mean, they don't owe anybody shit.
no. So like the fact that I'm on the rail and I have a disposable camera in '97, and Tom's like, "All right, motherfucker, I'm gonna give you the devil sign because I know who you are." Like, you don't have to do that shit.
Yeah,
It's just,
yeah.
it's just cool.
It's just cool, man. Yeah, and I've been around usually on the sports world side, but I've met and seen so many people who are just flat out dicks, like won't even look at you, fucking autograph. They're not even going to look at you and give you the time of day. Fuck
Yeah,
no, you're not getting a selfie, not signing anything even for a kid. I mean, there's some people who really let that stuff get to their head, and I'm sure it's annoying. I'm sure after years of people staking out your house or your tour bus or whatever, it's annoying. But to their credit, to this day, I still
yeah,
see so many fans who get a chance to meet them,
yeah,
who get pictures with them, autographs, run into them. I mean, so many people post pictures with Mark at fucking Disney World all the time.
yeah, yeah, totally.
Disneyland, sorry.
Yeah,
So yeah, to their credit, I think even throughout the ride that we've just discussed on three parts of this podcast, they've stayed pretty true to themselves, and that's really fucking cool.
yeah.
Okay, last thing I want to ask.
And then I've got one for you, but okay.
Okay, last thing I want to ask you, and this can either be on an individual basis or maybe just as a group, but if you had a chance to talk to or say something to Mark, Tom, or Scott, what would you say to them right now all these years later?
It's funny. Someone on the boards mentioned something like that. They're like, "Yeah, this was back when I first joined, and I was telling stories about stuff, and a lot of these kids were like flaming me, saying I'm making shit up or whatever. You don't know what you're talking about, or this is all bullshit." And I remember saying to one person, I was like, Hoppus is one of those guys where we're both old enough. If I ran into him in an airport bar, say we're both waiting for a flight, and I just ran into him, if I had a 5-minute conversation and reminded him of a few things, he'd remember who I was, most likely, right? So, that's what I think about. Like, it'd be cool to have one of those moments to just like bump into Ann or Mark or one of these people and just be like, hey, remember that time? And then
Yeah,
immediately you're just having a conversation with someone at an airport.
yeah.
I think because he's been out of the loop for so long, I'd love to say hi to Scott again. And
Gosh,
I
it'd be so
know
cool.
I know my high school girlfriend Annie has her own stories, and we talked about maybe having her on because
Hmm.
she'd like to share some of that stuff of the time that she spent with Scott and his girlfriend at the time. Um, yeah, it's probably to say thank you. Like if I ran into Mark at like an airport bar or something, I'd be like, dude, you didn't have to like give me a hug and invite me to that video shoot. That's kind of fucking cool of you. Like whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe you thought my girlfriend was cute. I don't know what your motives were.
It doesn't matter what
It
the
doesn't
motives were.
matter, and that's fine. If I ran into Scott Rayner, like if he was playing with the Wraith or something, I'd be like, it was really rad that you loaned us that tape so we could listen to Dude Ranch in my girlfriend's car. Like,
Yeah,
just saying thank you. Just little moments like that.
yeah,
I don't know what I'd say to Travis because I've never really met him.
yeah,
Um, I've met Matt Skiba a few times just because he's one of those guys that hangs out at the merch table at Alkaline Trio shows. So I don't have much to say to him. But I
yeah.
guess that'd be my answer, right?
Yeah, I've met all of them except Scott, and I don't know that I ever will get a chance to be honest, especially because he's not in the Wraith anymore.
Oh,
So
oh, oh.
yeah, so it'll be tough, man. I hope to somehow hear from him one day, whether it's through us or the pod or just in general, because like we've discussed prior, man, he does deserve some credit, and I know he doesn't want the spotlight,
I get that.
and I get that. I totally get that. But I think a lot of fans, both old school and new, really do appreciate his contributions to the legacy of Blink, and it'd be cool to at least, hear some stories or hear from him from time to
And
time.
he still gets those royalties. Every time Cheshire Cat gets
Yeah,
repressed,
yeah. I don't.
gets repressed, he's getting his ass cap on that. So.
Who knows what the agreement is on that? But yeah, hopefully he is getting paid because he deserves it for those two. So, all right, man. What do you have for me?
So this is something you didn't ask me, Rye, but greatest regret, sort of the, if you had the time machine and could go back in time moment.
Yeah.
So I've got mine, but I want to ask of you, if you had a time machine and could go back with Doc's DeLorean, what would that be for you?
I think I would have to fucking beg or just run away and go catch Blink in 2001 through 2003.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said before, I was too young. I didn't have my license yet. I didn't have a
Yeah.
job to afford my own shit. And God
Yeah.
knows my parents weren't going to go let me go see
Yeah.
Blink 182 with a flaming fuck sign and a porn star on their biggest album. It
So
just
like if you
wasn't
could
going
go
to happen.
back, you'd be like on the rail at like the Dollar Bill tour or something like that.
Probably, man. Like, God, I would kill to see that. I'd love to see Boxcar. I mean,
Mm.
yeah. I mean, it would have to be seeing Blink on, a 2001 through 2003 type of show for sure.
Well, I've got a little time machine regret for you, and I hope this doesn't make you tear up, Rye. But I was going through my archives last night,
Hmm.
and I found two unused Blink tickets.
Oh
So this
gosh.
was a show I had tickets for, and for whatever reason, my girlfriend wanted to do something else that night, or I had something else to do, and I didn't even go.
Oh my goodness.
So I have two tickets here. The scan is their Ticketmaster unripped, so they're completely unused, right?
Yeah.
Like the perforation is not torn. Blink, this is a general admission floor ticket, so in the pit, October 30th, 1999,
Oh my God.
$16.
Yeah, I don't know what part I'm more shocked by, the fact that you didn't go to this or how cheap the ticket was. That's
So there you go.
crazy.
So yeah, maybe
Jeez.
if I had a time machine, I'd go back and see that show. But I had something else going on that night. So
No, yeah.
whatever.
And this is before Netflix and chill. You didn't have shit going on.
It might have been one of those nights where it's like, oh damn, Face to Face is playing on the same night. And I just went and saw a different band instead.
Gosh, Blink 182 in 1999. And Davey's like, I'll go catch the little
Yeah.
small show.
October 30th, 99. Yeah, general admission four seat at the Cox Arena at San Diego State University, $16.
Dude, it would have been a sick, like, Halloween Eve show, too. You already know. Whatever. I mean, I don't know that I've ever gotten tickets to a concert and I just didn't fucking go. Now, maybe I've been given tickets to like basketball games and shit that I didn't care about. Gosh. Yeah, I'm looking at it now for the listeners. One thing I fucking hate about the new world is the lack of physical tickets. Obviously, you're like me where
I
you hold on
know.
to it.
I have no ticket for Moose Inc. I have no ticket for the California tour. It's just a web printout with a freaking QR code. It sucks. I
It
love my stubs. I
sucks.
love having my stubs.
I do too, man. And I always
I
pay
have
extra.
envelopes full of them.
I always pay extra for the physical ones when I get a chance, but sometimes you can't and you just have to print it out
Sometimes
and it's
they're
just a
not even
shitty
available.
fucking printout.
Yep, they're not available.
That sucks. But all right,
I have
man. Well,
envelopes full of Bad Religion and every other band from every
yeah,
time.
I have a whole shoebox just full of all
Yep.
my ticket stubs. It's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Cool. Well, I don't have anything else. This has been so fucking awesome. I'm gonna have to split this into I think three parts. I hope the
Yeah.
listeners
Thank you,
enjoyed
man, for
going
inviting
down.
me on.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, when I first set up the pod, man, I knew like realistic guests when I was trying to think of like who I could probably get on. You were one
Yeah.
of the first ones that I thought like I got to get
Cool.
Davey on and
That's cool.
hear these stories, man. So I really appreciate you taking the time to do it, and I hope the listeners enjoy it. Is there anything else you need to say? Or are you good wrapping
Yeah,
it
I
up?
mean, there's nothing personal pride in it for me, but I hope, the more older fans and older folks you have on that have memories and stories, I hope it encourages people to come forward with like really cool tales that they might have.
Yeah.
And I'd say to the listeners, like, spread the podcast far and wide, because all sorts of people might end up coming out of the woodwork. I mean, you never know. You know, we might have Mark Trombino on, we might have Rick
Yeah.
DeVoe on, just because they heard it and thought it would be cool and they had stories that they wanted to tell. So, and
Yeah.
I will, as I said, talk to my high school girlfriend if we want to do a really short session in the future,
Yeah.
just to get her stories and her side of kind of that 95, 96 time. So.
Totally, yeah, and once again, for the listeners, Davey's going to be sharing a ton of his personal photos that, courtesy of a disposable camera, snuck in via nutsack to shows back in the
Yeah,
day when that was
yeah,
not allowed. So we're going to be
yeah,
sharing some of those, and that's actually a very cool part of the podcast that I did not envision when this first started. Is people sharing like such rad
yeah.
videos and
Oh,
photos.
like Dylan's photos that he had were so great.
Yeah, man. It's so that's a whole other aspect that I didn't even see coming. That just,
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
doing this for the fans. I don't do this for money. I'm not doing
Yeah.
this for anything else. It's just doing rad shit for Blink fans. So it'd be so cool. Yeah, if anybody's listening, you got rad, never before seen photos or ticket stubs or stories. Like, we want to hear them. Let's do it.
Yeah, you do tell everyone that your guests don't get paid, right? Okay,
Yeah,
so
you're not
they know.
getting paid. Nope, nope,
Yeah,
definitely.
this is a volunteer gig.
We might be able to do a GoFundMe for like Mark Travis, Ski Baton. We might be able to raise a little bit of cash for a good
Yeah,
cause
yeah,
if
yeah,
needed.
sure,
So
sure.
cool. All right. Well, that was the Davy Jones saga. That was not an interview. We'll call that a 3-part saga. Hope everybody
Thanks so
enjoyed it.
much, Rye, for having me on.
All right, there you have it. That was the Davy Jones saga, 3-parter, long 3-parter. Really hope you enjoyed it. I've received a ton of great feedback on these stories that he was sharing throughout the past couple weeks when we've been posting these. I know it was long, but well worth it in my opinion. Can't thank Davy enough for really coming forward. As he said, after Muse Inc., he saw them in 2015, got nostalgic, went through all of his old Blink stuff, and he's just such a huge asset to the Blink community, to the Blink history book, and really just provides a wealth of information from an old school fan, unique perspective. So really hope you enjoyed that. It was such a pleasure on my part. Again, if you don't follow at Blink 182 online, definitely check out the Instagram and Twitter pages. That's where we've been sharing a lot of these photos that Davey was kind enough to scan in and let us share. These are never before seen. These are the ones that he was talking about. He had to sneak in a disposable camera and take these pictures from the rail. So definitely check those out. If you want to give me a follow, I am at Poppin' Curbs on Twitter and Instagram. I would really appreciate it. I'm going to do something a tad bit different at the end of this pod. So a lot of people have asked me, how can we support the pod, or how can we support you? I've been blown away by the feedback and support on this. I'm just a Blink fan, just doing this, trying to do rad shit for Blink fans. I'm not doing this for money. I don't get a dime. I'm just trying to tell cool stories with Blink, and I've really just been absolutely blown away by the support. For those of you who ask, the easiest thing you can do, please be sure to subscribe, download the episodes, rate and review if you don't mind. Number 2, as Davey said, spread the word on the pod. If you got fans, friends who are fans of Blink, tell them about the pod, because realistically, the more people who are listening, we're going to be able to get more people on, share more rad stories. Obviously the goal would be to someday get Mark, Tom, Travis, Scott, all of them on. So who knows? Maybe it'll happen one day if we keep growing. But I'm just trying to do anything rad I can for you guys. So I really appreciate that. The third thing, one kind of neat thing about the podcast is it has forced me to become halfway competent in tracking audio. So, before I had to record this, I had to figure out how the fuck you even record a podcast, which was a problem in itself. But one of my podcast guests, Christopher Holmes, several episodes back, he had a quote that has just stuck with me. And he said, "Do what makes you happy and fuck everyone else." And ever since that conversation, that quote has just been stuck in my head, and I'm just playing it over and over and really evaluating my happiness with my career and, kind of wasting the last decade doing the real job, real world thing. And so I'm really kind of taking his advice to heart. And long story short, I've been kind of using the halfway decent GarageBand skills I've gotten to put together some of the demos for some of my music that's lived in my head throughout the past decade. And so what I want to do is at the end of some of these episodes, I might pop in some of these demos. If you want to turn it off right here, it's all good. But the last thing, if I get some of these in iTunes or Spotify or whatever, if you want to support me, I would say, support the music. That's what makes me happy. That's what I'm super passionate about. And so I'm going to pop in one of the first songs I really had ever written. It's finally in a rough demo form. I'm going to pop it in here. It's a song called Get Me Out of Here, Please. And I really appreciate you taking time to hang out a couple more minutes to check it out. Hopefully I can get it professionally mixed, recorded someday. But in the meantime, just wanted to pop this in here. Figured, what the hell, it's my podcast. I might as well do something fun at the end. So I really appreciate you listening. I will catch you next time. This song's called Just Get Me Out of Here, Please.
Just can't take it. I'm on the verge of a mental breakdown. I just can't handle when you're not around. I'm pissed off, a bad mood. Didn't mean to sound rude. I'm pissed off, a bad day. What the fuck should I say? Just get me out of here, please. So exhausted, haven't slept in 3 days. My head is spinning, and I'm in a daze, and I'm sick, a bad trip. Get my heart through my pick, and I'm sick, a bad week. What the fuck should I think? Just get me out of here, please. Just get me out of here, please. I just can't take it. I'm on the verge of a mental breakdown. I just can't handle when you're not around. I'm pissed off, a bad mood.